I want to welcome everyone to the Learning Clinic on CKLU 96.7 FM, coming to you from Laurentian University. I'm your host, Bob Kerwin, and this afternoon we're going to continue with our series of shows with people who are running for positions in the municipal election coming up in October. This afternoon we have Ty Butt, who is running for City Council in Ward 12. Ty, welcome to Laurentian.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you for calling me.
Ty, we're going to get right into the show and try and focus in on some of the major issues that you see for the city as well as for Ward 12, because Ward 12 is kind of a ward that's within the city, I believe. It's I think the entire boundary is within the city. And so in a number of wards, you've got a segment in what we used to call the former city of Sudbury, and then others that are out, but this is one of those that it's right within the old city of Sudbury.
That's correct.
So we'll get into some of the major issues and probably start with a little bit of background. Who is Ty Butt? Go for it.
Thank you, Bob. Well, actually, I'm a businessman. I have a company called Clinc of Canada. We provide IT solutions and support all the technology solutions. And then I teach at Cambrian College. And then I have a family. I have 4 sons, and they all go to Laurentian University.
Okay.
And then I've been on many different boards and charities. I've been board of director on so many countless non-profits, and that's pretty much I do. I'm a technology buff. I spend most of my time either at college or my business, and then the rest of the time I give to all these charities.
So you're in a communication field. So this year is one of I think it is the first year that we're using online voting.
That's correct. Yes.
Is this going to be a positive thing from your point of view?
Oh yes, 100%. Yes, we are already preparing for this. I've checked with city staff. They haven't come up with a proper protocol how people will be able to use this internet voting. It's in the history of Canadian voting for the first time. People will be able to vote online. So more than likely, what they told me that people will first go on city's website and they will register their vote. They'll have to give some identification, probably their SIN number, address, and a few other things, and then a week before election in October they'll be able to cast their vote online. But we'll be offering this to public if for some reason people are not comfortable in how to register their vote, so we'll help them.
Good. No, I can see some tremendous advantages for people that don't happen to be around at the time of voting. People might be on vacation in Florida, or might be on going to school somewhere else.
Anywhere in the world, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess this should see a greater participation in terms of voter turnout, and one of the objectives of this, the Learning Clinic, and I think one of the objectives that we should be looking at for the next several months is making sure that everyone who votes has enough knowledge about what they're voting for.
Most definitely, yes.
And I think that's going to be hopefully this is going to be the year where people go to the polls because they're informed about the candidates and about the issues, and it's not just voting for the person who has the most signs on the lawns and the last sign that they saw before they got to the parking lot.
True.
Because I don't think people put enough effort into truly understanding city politics.
Exactly. As you see, the technology usage is growing day by day. People are more informed now. Information technology, that's why they call it. People are using social media more than ever. Of course, there are more people on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. So all these great social media sites, of course, people are very heavily active. I get asked questions and all kind of polls every second day. So I see that this these elections will definitely be one of the best. The turnout will definitely be way more than ever.
And it's really going to be almost a transition into a whole new way of dealing with local politics, because we do traditionally get somewhere less than, well, we get less than 50% of a turnout. But what I'm finding is that the old style, you gotta go around the neighborhoods knocking on doors, that social media like Facebook and Twitter is almost taking the place of the knocking on doors, because anybody that is connected can actually approach you and ask you questions, and then when you give the answers, they can share the answers with their neighbors. So I see social media being huge in terms of getting the message out, and even when you're answering a question for one person, what I like is that the answer you're giving to that one person is going to other people,
Exactly.
even though they're not asking for it, because they're part of their network. So it's really neat.
It is. I guess social media won't replace knocking on the door. We'll still have to do it. But you know, once I'll go and meet people in my ward, they'll know me that you know, this is the person we saw on Facebook, or we've seen him on Twitter, LinkedIn, and because usually we put the lawn signs in the very last month or so. September 2nd is the date, I guess, the last date for nominations, and
Right.
that's when we start lawn signs and all those things. But you know, on social media, I can connect with my people even right now,
Yeah.
and I guess it's a great advantage. But just to answer you, of course, I'll be knocking every single door in my ward. New Sudbury, Flour Mill, both.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but
It is.
you
Yeah.
gotta do it.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why we're videotaping these radio shows. The radio show is broadcast live, and it's broadcast over the
YouTube.
internet on cklu.ca, but at least if a person happens to miss it, or if a person hears something, they want someone who's in your ward to listen to it, then people will be able to access it and actually listen to the whole thing. So what are some of the issues that Ty is figuring coming to the top of the priority list for the next 4 years?
For sure, I'll quickly sum up. Definitely to start with, I want to support facilities for all senior citizens. At the same time, I want more housing developments for younger families. I've seen that they have big challenges in finding a place to live. I want to support more snow plowing, because when you meet people in your neighborhood, and they especially in smaller streets, you know, after this brutal winter, well, of course the main roads they were done, but smaller streets they had a big challenge, you know. So more snow plowing, and then definitely more infrastructure upgrades, better pedestrian access to main roads, sidewalks, crosswalks, street lights and walking trails, junction tree, all those same issues. You know, some of our parks and playgrounds, they need more maintenance. Definitely, as I told you, Flour Mill is in my area, so people want more police patrol for safer neighborhoods. It's not that they have high crime. Crime rates, they've gone down if we compare with the last few years, but they definitely want, if the police patrol, if the police is more proactive and more visible, people feel safer. I want more business improvement areas, BIAs. We have one in downtown. I met with Jeff McIntyre. He's doing a great job. There's one on Notre Dame. That's again a very good example where people can have, you know, all the businesses. They come up with the different ideas and they implement, and they are using their tax money, and you know, that's how, if their businesses can improve, we can follow more business parks, what's happening in South. If we follow what they do in our city, we can definitely improve things here.
Mm-hmm.
I want more road development, especially if you, this Notre Dame LaSalle, what happened last year, the people, they were stuck for months and months. That's between your ward and my ward, so there should have been more well-planned road development.
Yeah,
But for some reason, you saw that we were stuck, and there was.
the results are good. The
The
results are good. That intersection has really changed the way people get in and out of town now. But,
True.
But I know what you mean.
Yeah.
There was a lot of pain and suffering during the construction.
Exactly. So that's exactly what I'm saying. We don't want this to happen again in any other part of the city. It should be well planned, and the people should be well informed. I want to attract more doctors, because not everybody has a family doctor. They have issues. The doctors, more doctors leave Sudbury than they come to Sudbury, and there should be a way that they should be. We should attract them and have them stay in Sudbury, so that at least everybody can have a family doctor. Those people at walk-in clinics, they're waiting for hours and hours, and still they don't have a family doctor. Then of course, like any other big city, I want to have more jobs created in Sudbury, more tourism to be promoted. I want to have a long-term economic growth plan. There should be, those kind of thing. And quickly, a few important things. My stand about healthy community initiative, HCI funds.
Right.
I'm not as such against these funds. Of course, those funds are coming into community. That's a very good sign. $50,000 per councillor per year. But instead that councillors, they handle those funds themselves. I want city staff and community action networks together. They should handle this. This way, somebody will be more accountable, and then everything will be transparent. So, the HCI funds to be handled by city staff and community action networks. Like always, I want auditor journals post to be made permanent. That was the only way that through audit people came to know that that transit scam, $800, $1,000 lost in bus tickets. People are mad. They want, they don't need stories, they want solutions. They want to make somebody accountable for people's lost tax money. And those kind of things, those were the basic issues I'm running for.
Yeah, we're running into a real brick wall in terms of taxes, and I know that it just what everybody that you're talking to really wants taxes to be held, and yet we're going to be sitting around that council table. There's going to be 13 people who have to make decisions on improving infrastructure and improving services and dealing with the seniors and it's one of those. It's going to be a very difficult 4 years, because the taxes are one of those things that if you don't increase them, you have to come up with the revenue from someplace else, and such a large percentage of the city's budget is human resources.
Sure.
So it's, have you done any thinking, or have you come across anybody that has any kind of a plan that's going to allow us to address some of these issues without having to raise a lot of taxes while we're going forward in the next 4 years? And I don't have an answer for it, but.
True, Bob. I don't have complete answers as such as well, but what we can do, the city has different departments, and then they have staff for those departments, so we can of course cut somewhere. All we have to do is we have 4 years to start with. In first few months, we can do a quick let's run it like a business. Say I'm a businessman and I acquire a new business, so I'll quickly go through income and expense. So of course, income is like you said, taxes, and expenses what we have to allocate for a different budget. So I'll see that of course if I have a shortfall, my income is not enough, my expense is more. So I'll see where I can cut some expenses, and that's how I'll balance the budget instead of raising taxes.
Mm-hmm. You've it's been a number of years since you've been up in Sudbury, but you've come from larger centers before, like Toronto. What's it going to take to get businesses from Toronto to think about locating up here to create more jobs? Or what kind of jobs can we try to attract up here? Because you came from that area and you know what the climate is like down there, what the business environment is like. Is there anything that you can put your finger on that might help us attract these people?
Yes, of course. If our taxes are lower, so all
Right.
those businesses they'll come and they'll try to have businesses in Sudbury. We have a mining sector, and then
Right.
there are tons of other companies who support those mining companies.
Mhm.
So definitely, I guess there are a number of ways. If we have, we're going to have an arena, and then let's say we go for a convention center, so we'll be more exposed, and more bigger companies they'll see that we in Sudbury and North Runs we exist. So there are a number of ways we can track those big businesses in
So-
down south
So
to come to Sudbury.
a lot of it's marketing then.
Definitely.
You're creating a different image.
Absolutely.
For Sudbury.
Pretty much like rebranding downtown, so we have to rebrand Sudbury and Northern Ontario.
The whole of Sudbury.
Definitely.
The communication, the technology that we've got, I know we've got a pretty good infrastructure in Sudbury.
Yes.
For technology. Do you see with the changing times, being able to use this technology to our advantage to attract businesses or businesses that don't necessarily have to build factories, but they can actually have head offices in Sudbury? Is that an avenue that we could be exploring?
Definitely. Yes, for the last few years, we have a tax center here. Of course, we have a number of call centers, and then we can have more call centers if you give them some sort of tax shelter or tax advantage. Technology-wise, we are already doing pretty good.
Mhm.
We are, I guess, technology usage, I read somewhere, is very high in Sudbury.
It's extremely high. I think
Extremely
it's
high, so that's,
75 to 80% of
Yes, so that's
access to the internet.
exactly. I guess that's due to the large winter we have. The people they tend to stay indoors, and they use more computing. So it's kind of in our advantage.
Mhm. Like I imagine that when you take a look at a lot of the companies we've got today, that it becomes easier to deal with clients and businesses that are outside of the Sudbury area through the technology as well.
Definitely.
And we are taking a look at Sudbury being the gateway to Northern Ontario, and I don't think we've really marketed that quite as
Exactly.
much as we should have. But
Yeah, exactly. So that's where we can definitely tap into this and market Sudbury as a gateway to Northern Ontario.
yeah, so if anybody wants to expand, they can come up through the system.
Oh yeah.
We are also an aging population. I think the statistics are somewhere, it's over 40%
Mhm.
of the people in Sudbury are over 55.
Yes.
The issue we've got going forward, because I know talking to a lot of people, they want us to have a long-term vision. And I'm an admirer of David Foote with Boom, Bust and Echo. I think his books have remarkable insight into what we're heading into. When we take a look at long-term visions in Sudbury, and this is something I know we're gonna be addressing when we sit around that council table, we're gonna be planning things that may be 10 or 15 years in advance, but there's another cycle that's gonna move into the 25 and 30 year that's going to really be critical, and one of the big things is this whole idea of multi-pad, multi-use facilities. We're dealing with an issue in the valley with the Howard Armstrong Recreation Center, where back in the early 1980s, that site was built with the swimming pool and the squash courts and the fitness areas and the indoor walking trail. It was built for the demographic shift that we're into today. It's a facility that really suits the needs of the 55-year-old and 60-year-old, because the recreation activities are things that you can do for the rest of your life. Whenever we talk about multi-use, multi-pad facilities, we're talking about like the big complexes down in Toronto where you've got 6 arenas and you've got this. Those are huge complexes. And I think one of the difficult things we're going to be dealing with is how can we go about creating one of these beautiful complexes, arts and culture complexes. John Rodriguez had a big one that he was
convention
looking at.
center.
Yeah. Without tapping into the resources, the financial resources that we are limited with. Any ideas on how we're going to, because there's going to be something that has to come up.
True, Bob. I guess before this interview, you and I, we were talking about, I guess you knew somebody who had similar ideas. So I guess you know more than me. And let's say we still not at council yet, but if mayor, a few years back, you mentioned John Rodriguez, if for some reason he couldn't implement, I guess as a council it'll be very difficult to convince people that we are ready to go for this big infrastructure. They would call it, oh, this is a Cadillac, this is too fancy and we can't afford this. Without even looking into the details that, those kind of big things are possible without capital investment. We can involve private sector, we can have some endorsements. I remember back then Valley was interested. There are many ways to do it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think going with the private partnerships is probably the only way we can do it in this day and age.
Yes.
The other interesting aspect is we've got the two factions in Sudbury right now. We've got the sports recreation group and we've got the arts and culture group.
True.
And we can't forget the arts and culture, because again, as you get into an aging population, that becomes a segment that becomes even more important than playing hockey and ringette.
Exactly.
So it's going to be an interesting balancing act. And the other thing is, when you've got private partnerships coming in, they're looking for a return on their investment. So it's this is why I have difficulty when people are saying, well, are you in favor of this kind of complex or that kind of complex? I say, yeah, I'm in favor of it, but we better take a good look at what it's going to cost. And one of the things we were talking about before we got on the air is one of the proposals that was made probably 10 or 12 years ago for one of these things involved increasing the rates across the entire region so that the private partner coming in to build this big arena complex was competitive with everybody else's price. Otherwise, nobody was going to come to their site. They were all going to go to the cheaper sites. And so those are the kinds of things. We can build something without increasing taxes, but if we have to increase all the user fees, that's a tax.
It is, yeah.
And we've got to be very careful.
Definitely.
Do you see any of the needs of the seniors in terms of housing being being something that's, obviously it's a crazy question, of course needs to be addressed, but how are we going to address the needs of the seniors and the houses that they're looking for and the types of accommodations that they're looking for? I know a lot of them are looking for apartments or condos or an option to go from their house into something that's a little less, requires less maintenance and upkeep. And yet, you're a business person, we have to make it profitable for people to build these complexes. Any discussion that you've been looking at how we're gonna address that housing problem?
You see, for sure, those seniors and theirs priorities is number one on my agenda. If you go on my website, voteforthai.ca, is my number one priority. So, being number one priority, we can't ignore this. Now, to your question, that once if there's something which has very high priority, so we have to allocate some money for this. I remember a few weeks back, I heard that they wanted to cut down some money from Pioneer Manor or something. So I guess absolutely not. We should have rather more facilities for our older population. Our seniors, they are, of course, there'll be more seniors in coming few years. So on top of our budget, we have to allocate some money for them. And the second part of your question, yes, there are other ways instead of having a big infrastructure for as an old age home or something. I know some people, they are coming up with the smaller buildings or smaller multiplexes where they can have fewer residents, and they can take care of them privately and then claim some money from health department. Definitely there are many ways to do it, and whatever it takes, this is our number one priority.
That makes sense. The whole youth question, you say you've got 4 children that are going to Laurentian?
Yes, 2 are done and 2 are still.
What's it, and I've got, I have 3 adult children, one of them still lives in Sudbury, the other 2 have had to leave. What are we gonna have to do to keep our young people in Sudbury? That's a long question here, but.
True, that's a tough question. Luckily, my older son, he works with me, he works in my company. He did his degree in computer science from Laurentian, so I have a IT company, so he's working in my company.
Working in his field?
Exactly. My second son, he just completed his commerce degree from here. He more than likely he's gonna get a job either in Toronto or Ottawa, so there's nothing much I can keep him in Sudbury. He has to go for the job he likes. So now, like I told you at the beginning of my interview, we have to create more jobs so that we can keep our youth in Sudbury. The smaller jobs like the coffee shops or the pizza delivery and those things, of course they'll always be there, but we have to create some good jobs in good numbers. Because my younger kids, every summer, of course, they're looking for jobs, and they had a hard time in finding good jobs. So we need more jobs and good jobs.
Yeah, and I think that becomes now part and parcel of the council, making sure that our marketing and our image is built up, and that now gets back to what are the conditions of our roads, what is our infrastructure built on.
It's just a mindset, instead of wasting time on council table more and arguing and lots of time wasted in deciding few things, there should have been more action, more positive action, but for some reason, as you saw in the last few years, there have been debates and time wasted. I wish if they could have done more positive, decisive decision making.
Yeah, it's your part of the city has always been kind of a growth area. The New Sudbury area is a growth area, and it's a big commercial area.
It is.
I'm not sure, I don't believe your ward includes the Kingsway, does it? The power center?
It does include, no, it does include some part of Kingsway.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that whole industrial, not but commercial growth and retail growth in that part of town is, it's fueling an awful lot of people coming in, and it's got some kind of jobs, but like you say, that they're not necessarily the jobs that our younger people want to graduate into.
True.
They're good support jobs, I guess, for a certain segment of the economy, but we also have a certain number of people in our community that are at the low end of the income scale, and they're there not because of choice, but they're there because they can't get out. Single wage earners, single parents, people on the lower end of the, and they're in they're facing an economy where their dollars are going, they're getting less and less with their dollars every year because of the costs of user fees, the cost of infrastructure, and I can see in your part of the town and even my part of the city, I think we're gonna have to spend an awful lot more time taking a look at the neighborhoods.
True.
And you mentioned earlier dealing with the parks and
Yes.
the playgrounds and kind of improving them.